All right, we are live. So I'm going to wait a bit, make sure that StreamYard and YouTube are talking. It usually takes about 10 to 15 seconds. There we go. Outstanding. We're all talking together. Everybody's getting along. Chat's getting started. Okay, here we go. Everything's working. Outstanding. So this is welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. So thanks everybody for stopping by tonight. This is Saturday night, so I tend to do video reactions or talk about issues or things a little bit more open, but not as open as Rapid Fire usually is, with more of an open forum. But today you gotta at least be a subscriber to participate in chat, and you have to do that for at least 5 minutes before I'll let you talk on chat. So thanks. Just gets rid of some of the more basic drive-by posts that I just don't want to deal with. So there's that. Today we'll be looking at a video. 2 weeks ago, I looked at Crash Course's religion video on atheism. And I had some really serious questions about it at the end, because I was like, how is he defining what a religion is? And so I went back through his series, and this is the first actual religion video. There's like an introductory video that just he talks about what he's going to do. And then there's this video that we're going to be doing today, where we talk about what is a religion, and one of his, like, he asked the question in his thumbnail, is yoga a religion? Which is a very interesting legal question as well. And religion has some legal implications, because if you're defined as a religion, there's certain privileges and restrictions in most Western societies on religions. So there's that aspect of it. But before we get into that, just wanted to remind everybody, if you are a member, you have 2 emojis that are brand new. The thumbs down has been replaced with the nope fangs. Boo. In general, Fangs doesn't like Yahweh. Him and Yahweh are going to be rivals, so we can see the lightning bolt and everything. And then if you want to give an affirmative, we have Fangs with his yes emoji. So if you are a member of the channel, you get both of those. And so Fangs giving his thumbs up and Fangs giving his thumbs down. So thanks for that. From the lovely I Killed Earl, she's been giving me a lot of artwork, and she also is responsible for the thumbnail today. So I kind of centered on one of her pieces of art, and so the thumbnail, this is the full picture, and I just took off the bottom part to use it as a thumbnail, a piece of it, and I thought it was great. So just a reminder, when she shows up, to thank your favorite artist. Turn you. Okay, and so let's see who's here. We got Fred is here. And yeah, Fred has been here for a bit. Martin is here. See, Anne Marie showed up and asked me how I was. It is hot today. I think it's hot. Most of the Midwest is kind of boiling today. So, let's see. Ronald from Indian Lake. Yeah, it's pool day for most people, yes. Turn us on. Okay, what do you mean by that, Martin? Certain hobbits, that does not make them religions. Welcome to English language, true mongrel. Yes. Yeah, you love The Angler? I loved it too. Hey, Earl. We were talking about your artwork for the thumbnail, and we got new emojis, all responsible for the lovely I Killed Earl. She is, Ray is here as well. Okay, so just a reminder, I do have a goal in super chat goal in the thing. I'll count gifted memberships as well. If we make it to 5, I will wear the hat chosen by the poll. If we make it to 10, I have a brand new hat that has yet to be revealed. And so there's that. There's a hat reveal if possible this evening. So we'll see what happens. But I'm here mostly to have a good time. But yeah. They love the angler. Yes. I agree. Hey, Blossom. Religion. These clowns will say, you people talk about the climate all the time. It's just another religion. Yes. And this is kind of, Blossom, you're hitting on my problem with the current definitions of religion, because as we're going to see tonight, there seems to be a desire to make the definition of religion very fuzzy. And I think there's some political, social, and even religious motivations to do that. Because when I reviewed the video a couple weeks ago about is atheism a religion by the same content creator that we're going to see tonight, he made reference to this video about religion being very fuzzy. And so he refused kind of to answer the question of whether atheism is a religion, because of his fuzzy definition of what the word religion is. And I think there's a motivation in part by religious people to make it fuzzy because, and this is my own pet political science theory. I think a lot of people want the word religion to be fuzzy. On the one hand, you have a lot of people who want their various, cultic behaviors, whatever, to be classified as a religion so they get tax exempt status in the United States, for instance, or have other special privileges. So, and then we have that other motivation, because I think the reason they want it to be fuzzy is then they can classify a lot of other things as religions that aren't really religions, like atheism. Like, I do not subscribe to the notion that atheism is in any way close to being a religion, but they want to make it vague. And I think we're going to see that in tonight. So is a hat stupid or sexy? That depends. It depends on the person. I will tell you it's a top hat. It's another top hat. And it references my past in a certain way. So you can get that. So we'll see. I expect I have a relationship with JC. Yeah, probably. But I also reminded everybody, you of course have your for Fang's sake icons, and I also had to pull this one up from Earl, because this is the just basic standard grumpy Fangs, which I don't know. I'm seriously considering using part of this for some other parts of the channel, because I think it fits so well. Yes. 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 Yeah, it is. So there we go. Well, the minimum donation, Fred, is $2. So you could do that. It would be considered okay. I don't care. I really wish YouTube had like a dollar amount, but then I understand exchange rates and all that stuff. But like, if I could put a dollar amount and say the stream was paid for, at that point I would, but they don't let you do that. So I kind of like multiply the number of chats by the amount of money I want to make, and there we go. So okay, yeah, but I see the face. The thing is, Earl, the face, everything from the neck up, I think. We've talked about a celebration emoji. I would actually, let's go for a grumpy emoji and just find a way to get Fangs' face there in a single thing in a square, because I think that would be a hell of an emoji to replace the one I still have to replace with. So, yeah, sexy fluffy over there. All right, there we go. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. There's one. Thank you very much. Right now, the black top hat with the red band is winning. So there you go. All right. Here, I gotta get my earphones on because I'm gonna switch to the video, and we're gonna talk about what even is a religion. That's the title of his video. This is the same content creator that did have the content there. So he did the one as atheism a religion, and I want to, talk about his definition of what a religion is. And I think it's going to be a good discussion starter tonight because, from my perspective, people are making the definition of religion as fuzzy as Fangs' armpit hair here for a reason, and it's to get away from good definitions of things. Like, we're trying to make things fuzzy on purpose, and there's a reason for it. So, and why I reject this. So here we go. All right, hold on, just pause. The volume back up. Go back to the beginning. No, it's not Regime Zooer. It's not. No, it's not Regime Zooer. This guy is actually a pretty good content creator. I just have a beef with him on this particular topic because what gets weird is he tries to make religion fuzzy, but then he has like 12 other videos where he discusses other religions. So he obviously has a definition of religion that allows him to identify these things as religions. Like, he doesn't have a problem, grabbing these things that he's going to use in his series as religions, crash course on religion. But at the same time, he wants to make the definition of religion fuzzy. So what qualifies as a religion? You obviously had a definition in your brain of what a religion was. It's almost like what the one guy says about porn. He says, it's hard to define, but I know it when I see it. And it's like he's doing the same thing. He's doing the same thing with religion. Like, it's hard to define, but I know it when I see it. And so I think it's John Green. Yeah, just his face, no text, nothing. Just a grumpy face. I think that would be hilarious as an emoji for some people. Some people just want to be grumpy at my head. So, yeah, capitulate. Yeah, that might be a good word. All right, let's get him started here and see what he has to say.
All right, I guess we're doing this. They've been asking for it for years, praying for it even. I'm John Green. Welcome to Crash Course Religions. So let me begin with a confession. I don't know what religion is, but I also don't know what art is or what literature is, or for that matter, what biology is. All
right, I want to stop right there. Art, literature, and biology actually all have fairly firm definitions. I know what he's getting at, like what art, is to one person is another, and he's bringing in all this like personal like stuff into it. But biology has some pretty firm definitions. Like, it's not hard to find solid definitions of those. He's making this really personal, and so I understand what he's doing here, but it's like I don't know. I don't know. It's like, okay, that may be true for you, but there's other people that have pretty firm definitions of what these are. And so I guess I'm kind of questioning why you would have a trouble finding a necklace. So there's that. But I wanted to get that out right away. Like, okay.
Studying viruses biology? I don't know, because I don't know whether viruses are alive. To say that religion is a fraught word would be a fairly dramatic understatement. Like, think of the many ways people answer questions about religion. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. I don't go to church, but I do follow my star chart. I don't practice a religion, but I do practice yoga. Yoga is a fascinating example, actually. Like, in 2009, the US state of Missouri's government pushed to reclassify yoga classes not as tax-exempt spiritual practices, but as recreational businesses in the same taxable category as gym memberships. But a few years later, in 2013, some parents in California sued their kids' school district, arguing that teaching yoga during PE was promoting Hinduism to students. So which group was right? Well, that's the thing. Whether something counts as religious or not often depends on who's asking the question and who benefits from the answer.
Okay. I don't know. My problem, I get what he's saying in a certain sense. The problem is, I think religion does have clear definitions that can be used in that matter. The problem I have with fuzzifying it, and he's going to get it to the point where it's so fuzzy that literally, if you have a dedication to anything, it suddenly becomes a religion. And that's my problem with making it fuzzy, because I think a lot of people want to put their religion in the same category as philosophy or anything else. And I don't know, there's a hard line to me at some point where something is no longer a religion. Okay. And yeah, I get it. I kind of agree in a certain sense, because a lot of people want to define religion as a certain thing, but there are certain characteristics that we often and most universally attach to religion. Okay, we say that that's a religious concept. We don't necessarily say that's a philosophical concept. Like if somebody says, I believe in God, that's a religious concept to me. Like you're believing in some supernatural being, that's very much characteristic of religion. So um, he's too fuzzy. Yeah, I kind of agree, Ray Ray. The problem is I see this happening a lot. And the reason that brought this up is because I was watching an older video of Alex O'Connor. He was debating somebody, and the guy he was debating said this kind of thing too, that religion is very difficult to define. And I'm like, I don't know. I think some things are clearly religion. Okay. When we get to the fuzzy areas, I mean, what are we talking about that makes it a religion or doesn't? I think you can start having a question about that. Uh, yeah, well, rabbits are fuzzy. I don't mind fuzzy rabbits. It's fuzzy definitions. What's the point of making a definition of something if it doesn't define something? So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, if we're going to define religion, it's got to have a purpose of why we define it. Like, there's many legal reasons to have a good definition of religion, especially when you have something like the First Amendment in the United States. What constitutes a religion? It can be a very thing. Yeah, you know it when you see it. Yes. Yeah, he's trying to make that analogy, I think, Earl. He's just, I don't know. I get what he's saying, because there are some practices, are they religious or are they just human? Okay, but my theory has long been that religion steals stuff in its society and attaches. Like one day there was this person out in the field and they just sat down and just took deep breaths and emptied their brain and found that very beneficial. And then the local religion started making that a religious practice, and all of a sudden it's a religious thing. Like I still on occasion do meditation. Part of my stretching routine certainly has some yoga in it. So yeah, does that mean as an atheist who doesn't believe in any supernatural bullshit? Um, does that make me religious? Well, it's not even really attached to my atheism at all. It's just I find the stretches in yoga to be challenging, and they do seem to help me meditate a little bit better. So, and my meditation's all about clearing my head and becoming calm. So, see, well, we got Evan here, and the Mighty Filmer, nonprofit status. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so. Oh, they did a Homeland Security. That'll be great. I'm sure I'll hear about that all week long. The fact that Trump's sleeping with Satan doesn't surprise me at all, but that wasn't shocking to me. So there's that. But yeah, okay. So Ronald is here. Yeah, okay. I think I got everybody. If I missed you, I'm sorry. But yeah. So far, I would say that already out the gate, he's deliberately trying to make the definition of religion fuzzy. But then I look at the rest of his playlist, and it's all something he's defined as a religion in order to talk about it. So you're saying you really have a hard time defining religion until it comes time to making a video about a religion. Okay, and then you can clearly define it as a religion. So Yeah, that's a good question. I have actually had that question myself because when you break it down, yoga is part of certain religions. Buddhists tend to do it, a few others. More the Eastern side of religion things do yoga. So I don't know. Yeah, Andrew meditating. Boogie Nights is one of your favorite movies. Oh, there you go. All right, but yeah, I don't know, he's kind of fuzzifying the definition of religion right out the gate. And I find that a little disconcerting, and it's not good for religions either, by the way. I mean, if you want to be a religious person, well, then what are you doing? I mean, you can make a definition too fuzzy that it doesn't have any meaning anymore, and I think that's where we're headed. So, it's a religious practice, but it isn't always associated with a religion, which is something I would say. I think that's what the argument became in those two court cases he mentioned. Is it a religious practice or not? And the point is, you can divorce it from that if you want to. So, teach us all yoga. Yeah, we can do yoga and Fangsology. You got to start the Church of Fangs at some point.
We've fought wars over it, we've built societies around it, we've even pretended that we weren't home when people knocked on our doors about it. That's right. We have two cameras this time. Camera 2 is for silly fun time, and camera 1 is for serious religion business. But what even is religion? Like, what unites Hinduism, Christianity, and Wicca under the same umbrella? And what sets religions apart from other stuff that people do, like reciting the Pledge of Allegiance or wearing the same jersey every time you watch the world's greatest fourth-tier English soccer team? Well, we can think of religions as frameworks that help people organize.
I have to stop there to get a comment in because the mighty Filbert is absolutely correct. If this was the 1980s, there would be a chick track on the evils of yoga. uh, oh, yes. Yeah, we don't say amen around here. We say nam nam. So, and instead of om, yeah. If you're going to do yoga with Fangsology, make sure you're saying nam nam instead of namana, instead of om. So, he's got a definition up here on screen, and it's a good place to stop it. Religion is a frameworks that help people organize, shape, and make sense of their lives. I think that's way too broad a definition of religion, because is Stoic philosophy then a religion? Is other philosophical schools of thought would probably balk at this because they also have a system to organize, shape, and make sense of their lives. That doesn't make what they do religious. Okay, so religion has some sort of spiritual element to it, I think, and a framework that just helps you organize and shape and make sense of your lives. You can have that be completely secular without any idea of God in it at all, or any kind of spirituality at all. I don't get that. The satanic panic would have banished yoga. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, this definition of religion is way too broad for me because I wouldn't classify, like, there's a lot of people that follow the philosophies of various people and what those people created, and they wouldn't call themselves a religion. This is just the way they decide to live. There may not be any gods involved. There's no spiritual understanding of the universe. There's no cosmology necessarily. It's just a philosophy. I think the problem with this one is you're now starting to blur the lines between philosophy and religion pretty heavy. And so, yes, because then, and this is why I think they do it, Ray, is if it's part of my framework to get rid of God, like to not consider God in the equation of how I live my life, how I organize and shape, make sense of my lives, then yes, I think that's why I had so much problem with his video on atheism, was because he's going with this kind of definition of religion. And because of that, anything fits. Like, you could if you organize and plan your life and everything around a sports team, for instance, that would be a religion. Okay, if it's how you organize your life is based on your sports team fandom or a fandom in like Harry Potter, Star Wars, whatever, yeah, you could make this anything. Okay, you could literally make it anything that you're really superly devoted to becomes a religion. Well, I'm sorry, that makes so literally we could have everybody with a philosophy, sports team, anything apply here in the United States for a 501c and declare themselves a religion, and everybody could be tax exempt. All they have to do is declare what their devotion thing is, and that's what they're devoted to, and bam. Okay. What he's doing here is just making it way too broad. This definition, yeah, it just doesn't work for me. So usually involves belief in God or a number of gods or teaches. Yeah. There's true religion and false, or they're all false. That's another one. And your name is suspicious. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, when we watched the video a couple weeks ago, Ray, it kind of indicated to me he felt that atheism was kind of sort of a religion, and I just didn't buy that. So
shape and make sense of their lives. But of course, if that's our only definition, then is veganism a religion? What about capitalism? What about organizing your entire life around the exploits of 11 23-year-old men in South London, or over-identifying as a Texan? Like, yeah,
I mean, this is kind of my point, Anne Marie, with this is like, if this is the case, if this is our definition of what religion is, then everybody could file for tax exempt status in the United States based on whatever they're devoted to. And they could create that and define that as their religion, and everybody could be tax exempt as a 501c. So obviously the government doesn't use that definition as what a religion is, because if they did, they would literally have to give everybody a tax exempt status. And so this becomes a real important issue when you have things like separation of church and state. What a religion is becomes a very important issue. So it becomes one of those things that I just don't have. I don't have a lot of respect for that definition, because I think it pulls in way too much. It becomes like a black hole that pulls in everything into a religion. So he's making some good points. So he's kind of pointing out the criticism of this definition, but I think the problem is he kind of sticks with parts of it, as I watched the whole video earlier. So
it's a big state. It's very
okay. Well, first of all, you need to understand I don't believe in the devil or the Bible, so you can quote scripture to me all you want, and I'll just point out it's a book made by humans. So that doesn't prove anything to me. Demons and devils, you haven't proven that they've existed. You haven't proven God exists. You might want to start with that. So, hey, Bren. So, yeah. Yes, I have to ask the question at that point, which God are we talking about? There are so many. Like, which one have you proven exists? Okay, that's your first duty, is to actually prove a particular God actually exists. So I'm sorry, Maverick. You're just, and you bet. I don't know. You seem like you got another account.
impressive, but it's not that big of a state. I've seen bigger. So yeah, it's tricky because no single definition contains all the ways people do religion. And the stakes are high here because how we define what counts as religion and what doesn't has impacts on all our lives, whether we're religious or not. So when we use the word religion, what we often mean is belief in a higher power, a trait that English philosopher Lord Herbert of Cherbury proposed back in the 17th century as one of the 5 fundamental truths about religion. Oh my god, I'm so good at pronouncing the names of lords of Cherbury. Like, is that a job? Is mispronouncing British lord names a job? Because if so, sign me up. Okay,
so we add to the idea of religion the idea of belief in a higher power. Cherbury, the Lord of Cherbury, there did say that that was kind of one of the essentials of a definition of religion. He felt that there had to be some sort of higher power or belief in some sort of higher thing above humanity to qualify as a religion. And I think, I don't know. It's at that point, I'm no longer religious. Okay. See, if I switch from the first definition to this one, I'm out. As an atheist, I'm no longer religion. I have no belief in a higher power, unless you count the possibility that, the universe could send an asteroid this way and just kind of blow us all to bits. I suppose that's a higher power in a sense. But if you're talking a higher, serial, personal kind of God, I'm out at that point. So this is the problem with all these multiple definitions of religion, is because if you make it too broad, everything counts. And if you make it too narrow, there are certain religious practices that you raise your eyebrow around. So, but the moment you put in a higher power, yeah, I'm out. Okay. I don't believe in any of that, so it's like, I just don't see how that's even possible. How a person ties itself together. I learned that in college. I don't know. See, the problem once again, that's kind of fuzzy. I mean, our sports teams are religion then, and fandoms, our movie fandoms, and, universe fandoms and fiction, religions at that point. So yeah, religion is one of my, I needed to know the multiple definitions of religion and how to respond to it. Okay. Channels make a topic too complicated when religion is what it is, incredibly simple. Yes. Yes, it is. I think it's much more simple than a lot of these people want to make it. And I think the motivation, has become very clear to me. The reason they want religion to be fuzzy is so they can pull in other things as religion, which is funny because the reason they want to do that is, well, you're just a religion too. And so you're just as whacked out and crazy as I am. Oh, so you admit that religion is whacked out and crazy. But you want to pull me into that camp so that I can be whacked out and crazy. I got it. So, yeah, I think it needs to be more than this too. Belief in a higher power too. But I don't know. I don't like the first definition because it makes anything that has any kind of devotion to it a religion. He brings up several examples like veganism, a sports team, other things like that, where you could, philosophies like secular philosophies could be considered religion under that. So, yeah. God is dead or God is dead. Yes, please hit the buttons. Thanks, Asso. Appreciate that. If you learned it at a Christian college, then it is propaganda, because they're setting up an argument, Ronald. They're setting up this argument about your atheism is just another religion, okay, or any other philosophical school is just another religion. And I think that's what they're doing. It's an apologetic idea to make religion fuzzy, because then they can net other things into it and call it a worldview, religion, whatever. The problem with atheism as in and of itself is it's just a non-belief in any God. It doesn't really deal with the questions of, say, cosmology or things like that. You can have different views of cosmology and still be an atheist. It doesn't deal with how you philosophically live your life. You can have very different ways of doing that. So there's a lot of things that don't necessarily count as a religion, excuse me. So there's that. I think Christians, apologists, try to do this fuzzy definition of religion because they want to rope in things they're against into it. So there's that. But yeah.
Give credit to Lord Herbert. It's true that lots of religious traditions involve gods and goddesses, except for the ones that don't, of course, like many forms of Jainism and Buddhism, which focus on ethical behavior and self-transformation.
But to be fair to both of those, there are also spiritual beliefs in Buddhism that, while you might say they don't have a belief in a higher power, they do believe in powers. Okay. And so I think that's where one of you mentioned that, that still needs a little bit more defining, because, and I agree with that, because I think Buddhism is a religion because it has certain spiritual beliefs and spiritual tenets. So it kind of puts that, just to practice life, communally shaped ideals of belief in a higher power God, and that's all it is. And it's the last part, though, the higher power God or something of that nature, that I think makes it a religion compared to something else. Because you can have the other two, like you can have life practice and a viewpoint on life and communally shared ideas and not be religious. Okay, so hey, Randy. Atheism isn't very fuzzy. No, it's not. It's just very clear what it is. But I think they broaden the definition of religion to draw it in, to try to make it fuzzy. It's an interesting tactic, and unfortunately it also works. It is. If there was a God beyond humans, they would factor in aliens. Yeah, probably. Don't forget to be awesome. Okay, there we go. Sneezing all day. How do I stop? I don't know. Yeah, at that point, it's just an ideology. I think what you're hitting on is it's this belief in higher or spiritual powers that kind of makes a religion a religion. And I think to me, that's kind of where the defining line is. And once you take those out, it's not a religion anymore. So there's that.
Okay, what if we defined it more broadly? Let's say a religion doesn't have to have a higher power, but it needs a shared belief system. Again, for some traditions, that's fair. Like for most Christians, it's really important that everybody's on the same page about the whole Jesus is Savior thing. Religions with shared beliefs.
Okay, I got a comment on the shared belief system. That's a little bit too broad. And I know he brings up Christianity, but Christianity is a little bit more than just a shared belief system. Okay, there's other things. It's not the greatest trick of the devil. It's the greatest trick of religious people to convincing people that the devil does exist, even though there isn't any evidence for him. Just like God. I have as much evidence for my deity, Fangs, as you do for God. So I get it. I get what you're saying, but you don't have proof of the devil's existence. Like, if I want to prove another person's existence, I can take pictures of them. I can go shake their hand. I can look them up. I can do all kinds of other things. What I don't have with the devil or God is any of that. There's just no evidence there. So I'm not going to. Actually, evolution is an established scientific fact. Sorry. You can run from that all you want, but it's true. Okay, it's true. It works. And it works because it's testable, repeatable, and we use it practically in science and medicine. So creation, you have no proof of that either. Do you have pictures of God, like speaking words and spinning things into existence? Sounds made up to me. So, I mean, I've got origin stories from every religion of how the universe came to be. Why is yours correct and the other one's not? So, the theory of evolution isn't really based on Charles Darwin anymore. He got the ball rolling, but we have come a long, long way since then. Sorry, evolution is an established fact. Okay, we use it. It has attained the rank of theory for a reason. And you guys like to use the word theory as the word hypothesis, but that's not the way it's used in science. Okay, it's actually has more evidence than many other things that are considered theories. So sorry, it doesn't have gaps in it. If you're going to talk about the eye, I'm going to tell you to go back to Origin of Species and read his whole thing about the eye and not quote mine it. So there you go. Hey, Triple E. Yes, both are tested and true, period, full stop. Okay. And I know people don't like that. I didn't like it when I was a believer either, but the more I studied it, the more I realized it was an established fact. Sorry, you are an ape. on a small planet spinning in an insignificant galaxy. And I know that your religion allows you to think more of yourself than you actually are, and that's why you follow it. I know that because that's the way I did it too. So, yes, theory of gravity. Yes, we still have nine. I mean, if even if I want to grant this to Blossom, it's like, and I do. I'll say I get what you're saying, but yeah, there's more evidence for evolution than creation. You know, you can disprove evolution, and you still haven't proven your point. Okay, if you're going to prove creation is true, you got to prove creation is true, not disprove everybody else. Okay, I mean, if you disprove that Odin created human beings out of two different logs of tree, that doesn't prove that God created it out of the dust, created human beings out of the dust of the earth and a man's rib. Okay, you still have to prove your claim, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't get to it. So, uh, so there's that. But yeah.
Are called creedal religions and are often linked to a sacred text. But even this broader interpretation.
Okay. Creedal religion, yeah, atheism ain't that then, because I don't know of any creed that we have. I think the only thing I've heard in common that atheists say is, given the evidence, I don't believe in God. Okay, or any of them, none of them. I think that's all you will hear from your average atheist when they talk about what they believe in. They just don't believe. Okay, so it just isn't. It's not there. You know, it's just not there. So, but yes, if you have a text of scripture that bases your belief, you have a certain set of standard beliefs that everybody shares, then you're, you know, and that's based on a higher power. I think you're getting much closer to the definition of what a religion is. So, hey, Robin, good to see you. Had a lot of fun there at the at Captive Death stream. So I hope I don't know if they're still going. You know, they were just talking about evolutionary stuff and versus creation. So if anybody wants, they were reacting to a guy. So okay, there you go. There you go. Kitties are like that.
Interpretation doesn't cover everything, right? Like the Soto Zen school of Buddhism emphasizes action over beliefs, building mindful awareness through meditation, cooking, and caring for other people. We sometimes call these.
Yeah, except Buddhists also have some beliefs like chakras and a few other very spiritualized beliefs. Okay. Uh, so they're kind of knit by, I get what he's saying because they are kind of common practice beliefs, but Buddhism also has some spiritualized views of the universe that they do not verify with science. Okay. They don't bother to prove those things. They assume them. So, and they're very, I don't know, woo, I guess would be a good term for it to me. Karma. That's another one. Yeah. It has its, there's a definite spiritualized aspect to those things that make them a religion. And he's kind of avoiding talking about them, which is kind of suspicious.
Votive religions, traditions that stress what people do rather than what they believe.
Well, yeah, but you can stress what people do over what people believe. It still doesn't mean that they don't have beliefs. Okay, they still have those beliefs. Just because of, like, there are versions of Christianity that stress Christian action over Christian belief. Okay, still doesn't mean that they don't have the Christian beliefs. Okay, so I get what he's saying, that votive religions, I get it, but those same votive religions often have some creedalism to them too. It's like he's trying to say they're either all creed, or it's like, no, there's a lot of these religions have both. So yeah. Kind of dangerous in what it does to its followers. Yeah, it does do that because it creates a very interesting mindset that I also find very problematic. Yes, but religion is definitely belief. Yes, I think that's a probably. See, the problem I'm having here with this treatment of Buddhism is that they definitely have some spiritualized very, not necessarily higher power beliefs, but they definitely believe in some sort of powers that, or states of the universe that affect their lives. So I don't know. Yeah, if you believe in what goes around comes around, you really haven't been paying attention. Yeah, I think it was Aaron Ra who said his last thing that he believed in that he got rid of was karma, and it was simply just looking around him. He's like, there's some really evil people that continue to be evil and don't have any consequences, and then you have people that are really good facing a lot of crap. And he was very definitely much that way. I mean, you still, once you discard that and realize, oh, this is why justice is important. Okay, that's why the human concept of justice becomes a little bit more potent when you get rid of karma. So, and we're never going to have a perfect system because we don't seem to ever do that. So, shit happens, and you have evidence. Yeah, agreed. I think the thing with Trump that's going to happen is like I think it was a pilot of his recent. Oh yeah, he went to the island many times. His claim that he never went there is falling apart. So it's like I have a lot of Republican friends now, Anne Marie, that aren't talking very much about Trump, other than to say what the hell is he doing, and they're not getting it either. Okay, so. You have to be a pretty dyed. I don't see their posts on Facebook anymore. It's like, oh, we have a problem. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of cultic behavior in all politics. Like I've said it before, politicians and preachers use the same playbook. Okay, because they know that if they fire up people's emotions, they will get far more effect than if they fire up their brains. Okay, if you get people to think about an issue, they may not vote for you. You get people to feel anger or sadness or something about an issue, they will absolutely vote for you if you give them justification for those feelings. So yeah, I mean, you could say MAGA is a religion. They definitely have a creed. They definitely have a belief system. So yeah, it might be getting close to there. I would call it a political cult, but there's a lot of those. So.
And of course, many religions focus on belief and action, like Islam's emphasis on both correct doctrine, or orthodoxy, and correct practice, or orthopraxy.
Okay, yeah, and he's bringing up the point that there are some that have an emphasis on both. Um, Once again, I get back to practices. Yeah, sure, whatever. My issue is, what do you believe in? Okay, and if you have something that's in your system that is kind of unsubstantiated or just made up or doesn't have any evidence behind it, as far as beliefs, then I think you're probably there in a religion. Like religion lives in the realm of unsubstantiated claims. Like it just lives there. Okay, it's very different. So yeah, they have hats and flags as a start. Yeah. To be fair, the Democrats have hats and flags too. They just aren't as popular. You've never heard that word? Yeah, it's a rare word. Because I came out of religion blossom, I think I've probably heard that a couple times. But orthodoxy, and then orthopraxy, which is you can see it doctrine and practice. So you can see it there. Why you're doing the practice? Yeah, I agree with that. Like why you're doing the practice means a lot more than the practice itself. So it's like the praxy doesn't really bother me. It's the doxy that bothers me. So, like, what do you believe that makes this a religion? So,
within a religion, there can be disagreements, profound ones seen as worth killing and dying for over this stuff. So in truth, no single idea unites every religion. Not belief in God, not prayer, not prepping for the afterlife. The term religion is sort of like the
except I don't know too many religions that don't have a what happens after I die thing that doesn't involve nothing. Um, okay. I mean, when you look at like a Buddhist, what are they trying to achieve after after their death, and it's like to become one with the universe or whatever. Um, there's still a belief that something happens after death. Hinduism, of course, has reincarnation. Christians have heaven and hell. Muslims have heaven and hell. Jews have, Sheol and Abraham's bosom. There's, I get what that last one kind of, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, back up. Okay. Because I don't know too many things I would define as a religion that don't have an afterlife belief to them. So, there's that. Oh, what do we got here? Let's see. We got Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Everybody hail Fangs. And then Ronald gifted 5 Rabyd Atheist memberships. Outstanding. Let's see who got those. B.S. Lewis, Hayward, Jed Larney, Stephen of Oz, Spooky Bed Hair, and Star Trail are now members of the channel. Thank you very much. You can enjoy some of your new emojis with that. So there's nope and yes and for Fang's sake and all the rest of it. So, but that also pushes me. I do count gifted memberships as part of the goals. So that means we're at 8, which means I do have to pull out the hat that the poll has at top right now, which is the black top hat. I got my earphones on, and I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. I usually wear my earbuds, but they've been bothering me of late. So where'd we go here? Oh, there you are. If I can pull this off, we'll see. Yeah, no, it doesn't want to stay. There we go. No, not going to happen. So hold on, folks. All right. So we have the red top hat. I want to make sure the feather is visible. There we go. So we have reached that. A couple more, and I've got a new hat coming out. So we'll deal with that one. So there you go. Yeah, BS. Welcome. Welcome to the crazy world that is my channel. Oh, yes, and hail Fangs and all that as well. So we got the top hat. I've got a brand new hat, but I can end the poll right now. 2 more, and I will put on the new one, which somebody asked, is it funny or sexy or what is it? It really depends on who you are. So there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's sexual production with CrossFit Time. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really get that, Martin, and it just makes sense. I can't do that. It still feels weird. So I'll put on, I figured I would have to use the earbuds at some point, and I just have to switch them. So we're good. I can still, I believe, hear this. So I don't know. See, I think I can have Fangs, the Church of Fangs, classified as a not-for-profit corporation in the United States. And the thing about not-for-profit corporations is they don't have to necessarily be religious. You just have to have a different goal and objective other than profit. Okay, so technically, there's a lot of people who do like social, political work that can put that under there. But the problem with being a not-for-profit is you have trouble advocating for different political causes and stuff like that. So BS is the father of the Fangs cult after all. Yes, he did the thumbnail that kind of got this rolling. Although closed captioning has messed up my name forever. So and did it Rabyd. So, and then BS kind of picked up that, and it's gotten, I'm going to tell you, man, it's gotten crazy, BS. It has gotten crazy. See what you started? All right, there we go. That's 9. One more. One more, and I'll break out the new hat, which I've been meaning to get for a while. It is a top hat, I will let you know that, but it has a very iconic feel for me. So there's that. But we'll see how well it pulls off, and you know people can do it. But I don't know. Getting back to the topic at hand. uh, so there we have that. But kind of he's wrestling with he's trying to make this like religion is hard to define, but I've already found ways to define it that not as hard.
Word sports, which lumps together soccer and synchronized swimming and curling, and even pickleball, which its adherents genuinely seem to treat like a religion. The way we define religion is specific to the societies we live in, just like the practices themselves. Sociologist Emil Durkheim said that religion is a system of beliefs and practices surrounding the sacred, basically anything a community has given special meaning to.
Okay, I balk at that definition of sacred being anything a society has given special meaning to. When I don't see that at all. Okay, you can give a society can give something special meaning to it, but not consider it sacred. Okay, you can have things in a society because sacred connotates a religious idea. Okay, there's some sort of spiritual thing behind the definition of sacred. Yeah, sports is not a religion, and so it's like it's not the same. Okay, and yeah, it's sacred got good until he defined it really broadly, and then it just kind of lost me at that point. So it's like, no, that's not what it. What a society considers sacred or important isn't what sacred means. Okay, there's something else besides that when you use the word sacred. So,
like crucifixes or landscapes or altars. But his definition also leaves a lot of room for other things to be considered sacred, like Taylor Swift or Diet Dr. Pepper. Because there's no shared feature of these systems we call religions, it's all the more important to be aware of whose interests are served by the definitions we use. Like a lot of yoga teachers disagreed with Missouri's reclassification of the practice and believed that yoga studios had more in common with churches, which don't have to pay sales tax, arguing that yoga is more than exercise and can't be separated from its spiritual ties. But in the California case, the judge acknowledged that yoga is religious, yes, but ruled this kind of yoga wasn't religious enough. Not in the way school kids were learning to do it anyway. For one thing, the kids called the lotus position crisscross applesauce, and you can tell that's not a joke because we're staying at camera 1. They literally called it crisscross applesauce. So how did we get?
Yeah, that was kind of the weird part in the yoga cases was that you ended up with people pointing out that there's something besides the meditative and say the stretching exercises and things like that, the breathing and all that stuff that goes beyond it, that makes it spiritual and makes it something else. You can do breathing exercises for health reasons. You can meditate for mental health reasons. You can stretch for physical reasons, and you don't necessarily have to put that next to a like some sort of spirituality like Buddhism or something. You don't have to do that. It's like I've said before, like you can have, practices that somebody did one day, they just sat down and breathed and meditated and crossed their legs and they felt more at peace that way. And then all of a sudden some religion grabs that and makes it a part of the religion. So yeah, sports are given veneration and special focus, but it's not a religion. Yeah, it's not the same as commitment to a spin. All hail Diet Dr. Swift. Invest more time in pickleball than as a religion. I can buy that. That's kind of the way I've viewed yoga, and that's why I think it doesn't deserve tax-exempt status. Because the people who want it to have tax-exempt status here in the United States are adding other spiritual beliefs to the practice. You can have it's like we said before, it really focuses more on the doctrines rather than the practice. Okay, like you can practice certain things and not be religious about them or have a religious or spiritual leaning to them. So, like, I may have a favorite soft drink. Doesn't mean that I'm religiously devoted to it. Okay, I might have a favorite entertainment or a group, like, some of my favorites, being Metallica and, Ozzy and a few others now that have passed away. And, I'm kind of keeping vigil over some of my favorite metal groups these days because they're getting older. Uh, so it's like but that doesn't make them religions. I'm not religiously devoted to those in the sense that I believe that those people have spiritual powers or things like that. It's like it's more of a veneration or a respect for what they do or a liking of what they do. Just because I like a very much something that everybody does, it doesn't make it a religion. I think when you venture out in this direction of likes and preferences, I think you're getting away from what a religion's central tenets are and what makes it a religion. You only worship Dr. Swift, regular Dr. Swift. Sacred is secret, according to Mormons. Yeah, I guess. See, that's the problem with the definition of sacred he uses, because a lot of religions hinge on secret knowledge, and that's their definition of sacred. And he uses a more fuzzy definition of sacred, and I think that's kind of there. You're religiously devoted to Elton John. You worship Angelina, and she's not a goddess in it. Nobody is. Okay. I don't know. I prefer my dead goddesses. So a lot of them have gone, but they still make it. But yeah, I just don't see that this definition is helpful either. So
To this point, was there ever a time when religion was simple or straightforward? Not really. In the United States today, we often use the word religion to imply a special sphere of society set apart from the rest of life. It's
okay, so that definition absolutely sucks. Okay, I'm sorry. That special sphere of society set apart from the rest of life. Holy shit, does that not define what a religion is? Okay, there's nothing in there that I would consider religious. Okay, how in the hell is that a definition of religion? This is the one that got me a little angry, because if that's the case, there's a lot of flipping religions. Like if you meet together as a book club, you have a special sphere of society set apart from the rest of life. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's like, it is absolutely the most vague. I mean, Bren's hit it on the head. It is the most vague definition of religion you could possibly have. Like, this makes anything a religion. Like, this is the most useless definition I've ever heard. It's like, it's just not, I don't know. Hope was he devoted to the late great Olivia Newton-John? I'm not sure. He's going through a book. I don't know if these are the definitions he uses. What he's trying to get across, and what his main point is that the definition of religion is vague. And the problem is, I don't think it's all that vague. I think people make it vague on purpose. So so there's that. But this is the worst one I saw. I'm like, this says nothing. This doesn't define anything. Like, you could literally have any group that meets for any purpose and that fits this definition of religion. So yeah, it hasn't been great. So it hasn't been great.
Sort of separate from politics or culture or the economy, but also overlaps with all of them in many ways, including that I don't want to hear my uncle's opinions about any of them at Thanksgiving dinner, which is also not a joke. But until just a few centuries ago, most languages didn't have a word for the kind of religion we're talking about in this series. Like, the Arabic word deen originally meant custom or law, but when it appears in the Quran, it sometimes gets translated into English as religion, which is kind of like interpreting an ancient word for horse to mean car, an invention that didn't exist yet. Even the Latin word religio originally just meant rules at a time when many Roman emperors were seen as divine. Like, Caesar's law was God's law. The idea of religion as a private, personal belief system traces back to a very specific time and place, 16th century.
Now, I disagree with almost everything he says from this point along. I think the definition of religion being something private and something that people practiced has existed far longer than this. Okay, I think the discussion of religion and what constitutes a religion has been around for a lot longer than this. I know what he's driving at, and he wants to point to something, but I'm not sure that this is particularly true. Um, this is where I kind of like, dog. I think we have earlier examples of what defined as a religion before this. So, I mean, Bren, it's existed as long as humans existed, and we can kind of define it the same. So there's that.
Century Western Europe. During the Protestant Reformation, Christians disagreed over how much authority the church should have and whether it was valid for the church to sell indulgences, which were these like little pieces of paper that let people off the hook if they donated to the church building fund. Martin Luther, the guy who kicked off the Reformation by purportedly nailing 95 hot takes to a church door, radically argued for a separation of church and state. Basically, he thought that the government should worry about stuff on earth and let the church handled the afterlife. This idea served Protestants' interests as it broadened Christianity to allow ideas and practices other than those okayed by the Pope, the shot caller / big boss / yes chef of European religious authority. The Reformation also redefined the everyday meaning of religion in Western Europe as a personal, private relationship with the divine.
Okay, now, first of all, I think the idea of a personal, private relationship with the divine has been around for quite some time. Religion kind of hinges on that idea of personal experience with the religion. If you didn't have personal experiences associated with religion, I don't think you'd have religion. Okay, because nearly everybody who is religious justifies at some point their religious beliefs and practice by their own personal experience. So I'm not buying this. I think this is a part where I think he wants to point to the Protestant Reformation as defining the separation of church and state. And I don't think that they would have done that, because Martin Luther also felt like the Lutherans should run things and the Protestants should run things. It's like he did not. I don't really see a separation of church and state in some of his writings that much. Not as much as this guy's trying to indicate. I see the people of the Enlightenment, the political scientists of the Enlightenment, doing that quite a bit. But those were ideas that were around a long time. So yeah, he's ignoring paganism too. Like, paganism is a very personal religion that has existed for thousands of years. The idea of a pagan not having a personal relationship with their gods, I don't know how he gets this idea that religion suddenly introduced personal relationship with God at the Protestant Reformation. This is the idea of paganism absolutely has this personal relationship with the gods, and that has existed for a long, long time. So he's this is why I was curious as how he was defining religion, because when he does atheism in his 13th video, I'm like, why are you being so vague about this? It's clear to me that atheism isn't a religion. Okay, it just isn't. Okay, so I don't know. It really bothered me, Bren, because it's like, I want to see what this guy's definition of religion is. And now that I'm seeing it, okay, yes, I can see where the problem comes from. Yeah, if you want to talk religion, you got to do pagan history. Okay, you've got to do it. But they always go to the monotheistic ones in Buddhism and Hinduism because they're popular now. Paganism is probably much more older, and from a historical point of view, probably the most popular religion that ever existed. So
it wasn't long before Europeans took this model of religion on the road. During the colonial era between the 15th and 20th centuries, Europeans encountered other ways of doing religion while colonizing cultures in Asia, Africa, Oceania, and the Americas, and they found that many indigenous peoples' traditions related to their ancestors, or the land, rather than a deity. For example, Native Hawaiians honor the sacredness of the Mauna Kea volcano, considered to be the physical embodiment of the gods, as well.
Okay, whoa. All right. But you just said it there, dude. It's not different. Okay. It's a physical embodiment of an actual spiritual believed God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that too. Why did he do it 13th? But yeah, but I'm sorry, paganism's believed in personified gods. It wasn't all that different in a sense. I mean, monotheistic religions just quote unquote have one. And the only one I really think is monotheistic is probably Judaism. I think the Trinity is a very veiled attempt to make polytheism into monotheism, but there. So, yes, God being in a high place. I mean, you see that in the Old Testament that, believers in Yahweh wrote of other gods that actually existed that were personified as things. I mean, Yahweh was originally the hill god and the god of war. And so it's like, he's a fertility god too. So it's like, yeah, the Bible's full of gods. And so the idea that these people groups didn't have relationships with their gods as both societies and individuals, that's just a nonsensical idea. The idea of a personal relationship with any deity has been around since deities. Okay. Like, it's not just that we believe that God exists, that we also have a relationship with those gods as human beings. That is almost probably as old as religion. Okay. I think if I were to say that there's an origin to religion, it's the simple idea of, okay, we have these gods. How do I have a relationship with them to get them to do what I want? Okay. And then that's the basis for religion. So pagans don't try to pagans don't try to convert me to their faith. So yeah, it's very much a free will thing. So yeah, he was an ethic called Elohim. Yes, and that's the thing. Like, when God says, "Let us make man in our own image," it's referring to the polytheistic system. And a lot of Christians don't like that when I say that. Okay, a lot of monotheists. No, it's not. I said yes. It's not a reference to the Trinity. What you had in Palestine was all these gods sat on a committee, and Yahweh just happened to be the God of the Israelites. Okay, and that God, being a God of war, decided to go to war with all the other gods. I mean, if you look at Yahweh as Mars or Ares, you have a better picture. Okay, so yeah, okay, you're an atheist. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's plenty of atheist Jews that identify themselves, ethnically with the Jews. So I. My issue with this is he's trying to make the case that this idea of personal relationship and God being personal is a very recent thing. No, it's not. Okay, it really isn't. And so he kind of goes off the rails for me here.
Well as Amakua, or ancestral spirits who provide families with guidance. But that
Okay, once again, ancestral spirits are believed to be other beings that are spiritualized. Okay, that's not necessarily a getting away from the whole idea of God or having a personal relationship. Like, you pray to the spirits to have a better relationship with them. You're talking with the spirits. So it's like, I'm sorry, I came out of Pentecost. And so this is far more obvious BS than I've seen in a while. So, but yeah, it's one of those things. You have no relationship with a false God. There you go. Yeah, paganism, I'll give paganism credit for one thing. They were looking at the world around them and trying to come up with explanations for it. A lot of religions don't do that anymore. They try to fit reality into what they believe. Paganism was a little bit more trying to do that. I think earlier tried a system of belief. Atheism is one disbelief, and not in itself enough to constitute a religion. Yes, and I think that's what. But I'm beginning to understand why this guy thinks atheism might be a religion, and why he wouldn't come down one way or the other on it in his video on atheism, because he's made the definition of religion so fuzzy that it could be anything. And that's a problem.
didn't vibe with European thought, which assumed religions to be Christianity-shaped, with a founder, sacred texts, clergy, rituals, and a church. Now, we're going to explore more of what stemmed from that in our next episode, but for now,
But a lot of those religions had shamans, they had sacred places, they had special holy people and special holy practices. Just because it didn't line up with the Christian way of looking at it doesn't mean that it didn't have those commonalities with their religion. Like, they did have a church, a sacred place, same thing. Priest, shaman, same thing. A lot of those religions in America and other places had a high priest. Okay, high priest, pope, cardinal, whatever you want to call it. They had religious figures that were in charge. Okay, so they're not as different as he's trying to make this out. Okay. I probably won't. I think I'm done with this guy because I was so confused after the atheism one. I'm like, why is he having such a hard time? And now it makes perfect sense why he's having a hard time, because he wants to make religion so fuzzy. Okay. He wants to make it super duper fuzzy so he can put anything in that box he really wants
What's
to.
important to know is that this prevailing model of religion hasn't always existed. It served very particular interests in 16th century Western Europe, as it does now, prioritizing some traditions over others. And this
But then what do you do with the tradition of the Catholic Church or Islam, or those traditions that go back farther than the 16th century? Okay, they didn't really change their beliefs. They just had new opportunities to spread them with technology. Okay, you could now cross the ocean in a ship, okay, and take that to other belief systems. But like I just pointed out, that doesn't mean these other belief systems didn't have similarities. Like religion has a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of things that cross over. Okay, and you're trying to avoid that, but and I suppose I get it, but I don't, because I think it's kind of dishonest.
has tangible impacts outside of the religious sphere. Like calling something a religion can come with some distinctly earthly perks like tax exemption and legal protection and baptismal hot tubs. And when this label
And that is why it's important to have very clear definitions of what a religion is. And so you're not actually helping that discussion, okay? Because when we talk about separation of church and state and how beneficial it is, separation of religion and state is probably actually a better way to term it. We need to know what a religion is, okay? And we need to know, why we keep it out of state affairs. And this is not something that's going to be very helpful if we head down this road of how you're defining it, because it makes it very fuzzy, and that isn't helpful. So it's like you're not going to get good definitions of tax exempt status. Instead, and I don't know. It's really bad. Okay, this is just getting bad.
Gets denied to some traditions, that can create real-life consequences. Many countries today have laws protecting religious freedom or the right to follow the religion of your choice. But how those countries define religion determines who is actually afforded that freedom. For example,
unless you decide to give pretty massive freedoms to anybody who wants to believe and practice what they believe, as long as they don't interfere with somebody else. Like, it's easy to give away a right like freedom of religion if you also put it with don't violate anybody else's right to believe or not believe. Like if you simply say you can practice your faith or religion as long as you don't interfere with somebody else's right to believe and practice as they see fit, or their basic human rights, then it's pretty easy to figure that out, and you don't need a lot of definitions. Okay, what really comes down to, let's be honest, it always comes down to coin, um, and that always comes down to tax exempt status. What is defined as a religion is going to have a deep influence on whether somebody gets tax exempt in a lot of Western countries. And so you gotta, it's like if you simply put the point of you can have your right to your religion as long as you don't violate somebody else's rights, fine, go for it. I don't care. Okay, it's when you decide to have your religion take over the government of a country and try to push everybody to those ethics and to those standards, violating everybody else's freedom of religion, then I think you have a problem. Or not be religious, such as myself. Okay, it's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, I don't see the problem here as long as you have a clear definition of what religion is, and then also say, hey, you can do whatever you want, just don't interfere with somebody else's rights to do what they want. This isn't hard.
The Chinese constitution officially grants legal protections to normal religious activities, but since 2017, the government has detained over 1 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in re-education camps. In India, a controversial 2019 law created a fast track to citizenship for refugees from some religious groups, but specifically excluded Muslims. And governments have sometimes
it's almost like there's a common denominator about Muslims. I don't know what that might be. Maybe it's because when they get into things, they like to take them over and force everybody to believe as they believe. I don't know. It's So there you go.
Weaponize their classifications of religion as a way to demonize, control, and exclude certain people. Often,
yes, kind of like what the United States is doing today with Christian nationalism. They're trying to weaponize. See, the problem with separation of religion and state, and why everybody needs to be for it, and why the founders, who were many of them were Christian, were for it, was they realized when one religion or one sect of a particular religion gets in power, it's always dangerous for everybody else. Okay. And so the best way to handle it is just keep it out of it. Just keep it out of it. And apparently we don't learn that lesson very well.
religious practices that aren't officially recognized are deemed illegitimate or illegal. Like many Rastafari adherents have been incarcerated for smoking marijuana, a substance they view as a sacrament, but one that's criminalized in many countries, from the UK to Cuba. In North Korea, where unauthorized religious activity is prohibited, Christians and followers of Korean folk religion have been arrested, tortured, and even executed by the government. The big takeaway here is that there's no single way of doing religion, no defining quality that unites these practices, but that's what makes it so important to be conscious of the definitions we're using and aware of who's policing their boundaries. I'll leave you with one more slightly jazzy definition from the philosopher and theologian Paul Tillich, who called religion the state of being grasped by an ultimate concern.
And you cannot get even more. I thought the last definition he put up of religion couldn't get more fuzzy. Here we go.
And throughout this series, we'll find no single idea about what that ultimate concern is, the shape it takes.
If something is based on an ultimate concern, everybody has an ultimate concern. So let's all that has got to be, I thought the last definition was fuzzy, but if we talk about ultimate concern being the basis for any definition of religion, I don't know what else you do. Okay, I really don't know what else you do, because then everything's a religion. If you have some sort of concern about something that is your ultimate concern, then all of a sudden it's a religion. Come on, man. So. It could be the Spanish Inquisition. There's definitely some. I've kind of called a couple of my Republicans friends on the fact, there's other illegal aliens in this country besides people from south of the border. I don't see you guys going after them. So, Paul Tillich, okay, I think I still have his definition of religion up here somewhere in my research notes. But Paul Tillich said, religion is ultimate concern. Whatever you treat as the most important thing in your life is your religion. That's what makes a religion. If it has an ultimate concern, or it's the thing you think is most important in life, that is your religion. Now, I'm going to say something. That's bullshit. Okay, that makes the definition of religion so damn fuzzy, you can define anything as a religion. And that's the problem. The whole point of having a definition of something is you can say, yes, that's what this is. Okay. When you make it fuzzy like this, yeah, he's going to do the video on atheism, 12 videos from now, and shrug his shoulders as to whether an atheist is a religious person or not. And that's a load of shit. Okay. It's like, no, I don't have a belief in a higher power. I don't have a creed. I don't have a belief in anything. Okay. If I'm at that point, then I am not a religious person and I'm not following a religion. Okay. I'm sorry. It's why I tell people atheism isn't a worldview. It isn't a religion. It only really deals with one issue. And a lot of people have a problem with that issue when I say, I don't believe in any deity. Okay, I don't think there's a personal God of any type. Okay, I don't believe in spiritual woo. That might even be a different question. Like I divorce myself from the stuff that's just claims without evidence. Okay, that people have done for centuries. I get rid of that. Okay, but if we take ultimate concern as our definition of religion, holy crap, you can make that anything. Yeah, but that's just it. It's like Ozzy saying that, rock and roll is his religion and his law. Based on Tillich's definition, then yeah, it was his religion. But yeah, yeah, there's no dogma, doctrine, divine, no religion. Okay. It's like if you have doctrine, if you have these spiritual beliefs, if you have a higher power, if you believe in some sort of spiritual reality to the universe that you cannot demonstrate and prove, you're a religion. Okay. Okay. You're in a religion. And that's where religion to me makes its bones, is its personal experience and making claims that can't be proven. It's like, and do I think there's a lot of things that we have to do that? Yeah. So worship, Vicodin and Fangs. There you go. That's probably actually a pretty damn good combination. Yeah, I mean, so if you're at the point in your life where your whole thing is to live without pain, and that's your ultimate concern, is that your religion? No, it's bullshit. Making that a religion. Paul Tillich, I remember when I read that in seminary. I think he's been around for a while. When I remember reading that definition of religion, I'm like, that's garbage. Even for a Christian, that's garbage. But it was setting up the apologetic that atheism is a religion, because if you make the definition so broad, you can pull anything in. Now, they don't want to pull in other things, and so they'll make exceptions for them. But I'm like, no, you got to live with this definition. I want you to apply it to a lot of it. So there's that. I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in anything supernatural either. And I would say, like, Buddhism is a religion because there's certain supernatural beliefs in Buddhism. Okay. There certainly is in Hinduism. I mean, so yeah. Hey, Wolf. Yeah, I mean, I get that they imprisoned a lot of people because of their religious beliefs, but I also get why Islam isn't one of the most popular religions on the planet, too. When you look at Islam worldwide and you get away from like Western-based countries where Islam is kind of forced to be at peace, when they have an opportunity, because it is very much, if you understand Islam, it's not just a religion, it is political. There's no idea in Islam of separation of church and state. It does not exist. Okay, to them, it's all one big thing. Okay, it's practice, it's belief, it's how you run your life, it's how you run your country, and they like to take over shit. Okay, and that's why they have a hard time with the United States, because every time they try to do something, the United States says, no, you can't do that, except in certain circumstances now. So I don't know. But, the Christian nationalists don't seem to be realizing this. They're opening the door to other religions coming forward and doing stuff like, the idiot in Oklahoma who's allowing prayers over the intercom system. Okay, well, I want to create a prayer to Fangs, and I want to give that over your intercom in Oklahoma City. I want to do that. How do you stop me? If you stop me, then I claim that you're being bigoted. Okay, so yeah. Says if you're traveling and you cannot be an mine is a CPC. A member openly said to me he just sees missionaries as spies. Okay, and that's the thing, Brent. I can see that. Like Islam, I don't know. It's. I get why. He's mentioned a bunch of countries that allow all religious practice, but they keep Islamic out. Why? Why? Is it because they're being unfair to it? Or is it because they're weaponizing their unfairness? Or is there a reason? Is there a valid reason? So, yeah, that's been around. Actually, around the idea of the Chinese house church has been around for a while. That's why when China gives its statistics about how many atheists are in this country, like it's 95% atheist, I call bullshit. Because there are a lot of house and underground religions. So, yeah, I don't believe too much that comes out of China. Okay. It's hard to believe any information that comes out of things that has to be filtered through the government. It's like, because then you have the government editing out what it doesn't want people to know. So there's that. Hey, Native. But yeah, I don't know. Tillich's definition of religion is way too fuzzy for me. It's even worse than the last one this guy gave.
Takes, or how we're grasped by it. There are many ways people define and debate religion, contest it and make sense of it, practice it and live it. Over the course of this series, we're going to try to make sense of some of them together. But this idea of an ultimate concern, a belief or series of beliefs that structures and animates your life, can be a very valuable thing to have. And of course,
Sure, but that's not a damn good definition of religion, because then anything becomes a religion. If you have an ultimate concern about anything, it becomes your religion. That is just so vague. That is just, it does not help. You know, I don't get it. I'm sorry, Frank Tillich or Tillich. I threw him aside because it's like, dude, you don't help. You're not helpful.
Can be dangerous too. I wonder if you have an ultimate concern, or I guess more to the point, if you're conscious of what your ultimate concern is.
Yeah, I have some ultimate concerns, but they're in no way religious, and I wouldn't define them as religious. I have an ultimate concern that religious people like to bully atheists on a lot, and they do. Okay, I have an ultimate concern that when people are deconverting from their faith to atheism or something else, that they're not allowed to be given the freedom to define themselves, and everybody else tries to define them. I have a lot of concerns, but none of them are religious. An ultimate concern being religion has got to be one of the most ridiculous ideas ever. And the fact that Tillich still gets airtime on that just bothers the hell out of me, because it's nonsensical. Like, so what? You have an ultimate concern. That doesn't make it your religion. Okay. There are people that have an ultimate concern about whether their sports team is going to make the playoffs. That dominates their life for half the year. Doesn't make it a religion. Okay. And that's the problem. This whole video has made religion so vague that you can literally make anything into a religion. And that's the improper way of defining things. Okay. Like I think you can separate like the belief in a higher power and something else and some few other things that make something a religion. And if all you have is like a view of cosmology, a philosophy of life, and that sort of thing, a sense of community, that's not a religion. It's when you inject the higher power stuff, the spiritualized belief stuff, the belief in, spiritual forces or whatever you want to do it. I mean, technically the light and good side of the light side and the dark side of the force could be considered a religious view. My point is this: once you inject that stuff in, you have a religion. You take that stuff out, you don't necessarily have a religion anymore. Okay, there's definitely something that makes a religion, and that's kind of where this guy's losing me. He lost me, and now I understand his video on atheism better, and why when he's asked the question, is it a religion or not, he shrugs his shoulders, because he's defined himself in religion in such a way that he can't really say. In fact, he can't really say on the rest of his videos that those religions are religions either, if he really thinks about it. So yes, hail Fangs. Hail Fangs. So he's talking like it's very important stuff, but I think he's off the rails at this point for me.
And how beliefs and practices in your life tend to that ultimate concern. In our next episode, we'll ask, how many religions are there? And again, find out that the answer is complicated. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching this episode of Crash Course Religions.
All right. Well, that's it for that one. I don't know. I had a hard time. Like 2 weeks ago when I was doing the review of his view on atheism, I was very much scratching my head because his definition of religion, is atheism a religion? And it's like I'm not going to do the next one. I'm not going to do that one because I think if you define religion better, you can actually get a number. Okay. You can get at least an approximation of how many religions there are. And so, but he's made the definition of religion so fuzzy. Like if I take Tillich's definition of ultimate concern and then I order my life with practices, things based on that ultimate concern, and that's a religion, how many fans of Harry Potter suddenly become a religion? How many fans of Lord of the Rings become a religion? How many fans of Star Wars become a religion with that? Like there's a lot of people that take their fandom to that length. Okay, that's their ultimate concern, what's going on. If you're a video game player and you're into certain video games, is that your religion? Like that's your ultimate concern to, have time to play your favorite video game. Well, is that your religion? Like it's, when you start looking at all the things that could then be a religion, it gets downright ridiculous how much that is. And I don't think this guy he just doesn't, to me, he's trying to make it fuzzy because then he can get to his atheism video and shrug his shoulders about whether it's religion, because then that apparently takes the heat off of him of every religious person, because then the religious people, see, this guy can't even say atheism is not a religion. And every atheist is going to watch that video and go, no, it's not a goddamn religion. Okay. Pun very much intended. It's like, it's defining nothing to prove nothing. Okay. Like every one of his videos, I will predict, is probably going to talk about the benefits of whatever religion it is. Like in the atheism video, I give him kudos at the beginning for saying, hey, atheists do have morals. Like he says there's a lot of myths about atheism, and he gets rid of some of them. Well, he doesn't get rid of all of them, but he gets rid of a lot of them. But then when he tries to say, can I define it as a religion or not, he gets very vague. He moves into the vague world. I'm like, why the hell is he doing that? And now that I've watched this first video and reacted to it, I know why. Okay, I know why. So, but yeah, it's just I first Star Wars, where Scar from the Lion King goes to space. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I hear the question, is atheism a religion? My immediate answer is no. It isn't capable of being a religion because it doesn't have a belief in a higher power. It doesn't have a holy book. It doesn't have ritual set forward by an authoritative or an ideological concept that can't be verified or proven. It doesn't have belief in spiritual powers or spiritual this. When it's a null of all that. Okay, it's like literally the null of all that. So I'm sorry about wasting your time, Brent, but I think it did bring up a discussion here about what is a religion. I think he does a really poor job defining it because he doesn't want to. He's motivated not to. He's motivated like a lot of people who want to he doesn't want to come off as making a hard stand on things. And I think that's why atheists get a lot of flack when they say it's not a religion, because the apologist has already been trained to come in and set the table that atheism is religion. So you're saying religion is bad, becomes my response. Oh, no, religion's a good thing. Okay, well, if I'm a religion, then I'm a good thing. It's like, and they don't really, get the fact that that's kind of a weakness in their way of doing things. So excuses seem to be quite good at talking a lot and saying nothing. Yes. Yes. So there's that aspect. See series, but he is open about being, okay. So he is open about being a Christian. And so now I understand his atheism video and I understand this video. He wants to define religion vaguely so he can, he's trying to make it all ideologies on a level playing field. And I think that's his problem. And it's like, no, there are some that are better than others. Okay. And, we can kind of look at reality and see which one conforms to reality, has predictive power, has testable, repeatable evidence. We can look at things like that, or we could just make basis claims without evidence. And religion is the hallmark of the latter. Like they make a lot of claims, don't prove them. Like we had a theist in here today trying to, the greatest thing that the devil ever did is made people not believe in him. And it's like, no, the greatest thing religion ever did was make us believe in the devil, which may be not existent, that doesn't have proof. Okay. So it's like, you're making claims that something exists and you don't even have any evidence. You have pictures of the devil. Do you have, bad things happen? Well, yeah, but there's multiple explanations as to why bad things happen. It may just be the way it is. Never think about that. So I don't know. You and I, Brent, have examined a lot of videos, okay, Christians and otherwise, and it's hard to find a good video that hits all the things. Now, I won't say that this video didn't have any value other than it's a great illustration of what, what links people will go to make something fuzzy so they can pull other things into that black hole. Like by making religion so fuzzy, they can pull atheism and everything into that black hole, from which nothing escapes if you make the definition so broad. But the moment you like inject things, like, to me, religion has theology aspects of believing God's spirits or transcendent forces, and it has rituals, that kind of express devotion to those beliefs. Now, you can have cosmological views, can be an atheism, like some atheists believe in Big Bang cosmology, and they support that theory and they think it has good evidence. And there's others that might have an alternative view. You can have atheists having different philosophies of how they live their life. But the one thing they don't have, any of them, is that theology. Theology to them is a nonsensical idea. Okay, most of us in the atheist camp, I have a master's degree in theological studies, and I now look at it and go, yeah, it's a lot of going around in circles, answering a question which causes more questions, and you just keep playing that game. And that's what theology is. It's a circular reasoning game. And so that's what it is. And so once you get rid of that and you get rid of the practices, the various practices that deal with that theology, like you're doing something because you believe God is a certain way, like you pray to the Christian deity because you believe the Christian deity is a real thing. Atheism don't have that. I don't pray to anybody, well, except Fangs now. But Fangs, I use Fangs to illustrate this point all the time, that it is very easy to create a religion. It's very easy to create a cult around that religion. It's very easy to just make claims without evidence, and everybody gets all emotionally involved in it, and they think it's wonderful. And that's been my problem with the religious folks that come here, is I'm still waiting for somebody to actually give me evidence for their claims, God is real. Okay, evidence, please. Well, it's just obvious that he's real. Like, no, it's not to me. If it was obvious that God's real, then everybody would believe in God. Okay, we actually might have some evidence for his existence, but not everybody follows that line. And which God are we talking about? There are so many. Like what? There's 40,000 deities now. And how many religions and how many different denominations within those religions? Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely something going on here. Oh, Earl, perfect, perfect. Let's see. But okay, hold on. I'm going to see if I can do this for you guys. But here's probably the latest emoji from the wonderful, I loved Earl. And so there we go. You think that'll be a great emoji? I think a lot of you and theists coming to the room are going to pull this one. So here, let me see if I can get it in like now. So, but yeah. Okay. Hold on. Oh. It's not very often I do a live emoji add-on. So let's see, where is that stuff? Oh, I know where it is. I know where it is. Badges and emojis, and we're all right. Saved and published. There we go. Outstanding. But you now have Grumpy. You have Grumpy Fangs. You have Grumpy Fangs. So that's the new one. So there's a lot of new ones. There's that one. There's Nope. So you got Nope. You got Yes. And of course, you have WTF. So there you go. You all have a bunch of new emojis to play with. So if you're a member of the channel, and some of you, 10 of you are new members, you now have emojis to play with. And I think we have enough members that a couple of those later ones have activated again. So thank you very much for donating the memberships. I actually appreciate donated memberships more than ever because it allows us to. Yeah, I know. What have I unleashed on the world? But yes. So, so there you go. But yeah, there you go. You now have a Grumpy Fangs emoji and thumbs up, thumbs down, all kinds of new ones. I think Evan put in the chat there all of them. So it's like I can't show them on StreamYard, but there you go. There you go. Hey, Bren. Thank you, Bren. Welcome. Welcome, citizen. So there you go. So yeah, there you go. But yes, I do sometimes wonder what I've unleashed in the world. And so there's that. So this is what it took, Bren, for you to become a member as a Grumpy Fangs. Oh, I got a second version. Outstanding. Oh, I may consider that. Oh my goodness. See, this is the problem with having a great artist who can do this stuff on the fly, is that I can do this. I can change stuff right away. So we have Grumpy Fangs with a cloud. All right. You know what I'm going to do? It really took this much, a Grumpy Fangs, to do it. Yeah. Hey, it all adds up. At $3 a month, and you have 60 members, that's not bad change. It's good coffee money. It pays one of the bills I have. So, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know. maybe what we'll do, because I have a limited amount of space for emojis, we may have a vote on next time when everybody's here. A little bit more people are here. We can have a vote, or I can put it in the community tab. Um, which one do you want? The one with the cloud or the one without the cloud? No. 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 I'm working on that. I have spent probably the last couple weeks just kind of, what am I trying to do? I've explored a lot of options for employment and things like that. And I finally have kind of said, and Earl and I have been talking about this back and forth. It's like, I'm going to give my shot to being a writer, content creator, activist kind of thing, and try to make that pay the bills. So, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time, but I would rather be known for that than a lot of other things. I'm just frustrated with the whole corporate promotion world, retail world in general. And so, yeah, I think that one will probably win, and I may switch it out anyway. We'll see. It may not be worth the vote, but yeah, it makes it even more grumpy if that was possible. Yeah. See, my thing is, I have always done what other people recommended for me to do, and I've gotten to the point where I want to get away from that. And I want to get to what I want to do with my life and how I want to end it and focus on that. So I'm definitely headed that direction. Hey, Captive. Good to see you, Dave. Great stream today until I had to leave, and I'm sure it went downhill from there. But yeah. So I have my own new emojis now too. They're Captive Desk. So I've got my grumpy fangs and what the fuck and yeah, I'm gonna ignore them. My heart has always been in creating like things like stories and writing and things like that. And since I've become an atheist, I've become more acutely aware of a lot of things that I face as an atheist. And the process of deconversion still very much concerns me when other people are going through it. And I would rather find a way to make that pay off and help me out that way than do the other things that I had planned. Teaching there's just too many things wrong with education in general. Like I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat on this one. The educational system is broken in the United States. It's broken in a lot of ways. And I speak as somebody who used to teach in it. It's way too regimented. Okay. And I think it doesn't appeal to people, to kids and students that just could go a different direction, and it doesn't take into account. They're finally having to be dragged kicking and screaming into the fact that people can be educated at home. Kids can be educated at home and with a system. And, it's taken the public school system forever to realize that technology marches on. But so you try to deliver the worst video. Well, it makes it entertaining and funny. I'm going to give you this, Dave. You got a good crew there. They work well together. They're funny together. But you also have some good knowledge there. So there's, it's one of those things now where I enjoy coming to Saturday night at the Atheist. So it's like, I'm thinking of different ways. So I enjoy being there. I enjoy listening to you guys. So you do a good show. You're still criminally undersubscribed, by the way, too. So, all right, there you go. See you later, Bren. Appreciate you, man. Oh, and by the way, I think we passed 10 memberships or whatever. So I have a new hat. And I don't know how Earl's going to put this in stuff, but I've been meaning to get this one for a while for obvious reasons. There we go. I just need the long hair and a guitar. I think the conic on this one is kind of off, but yeah, I'll fix it later. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, it's one I've been meaning. I have been in the past a Guns N' Roses fan, but back in their earlier days. Later, I didn't like them so much, but always loved Slash, his look. So, so that's the new one. I don't know when the next new one will appear. It'll be depend on what strikes my fancy. So, but yeah, it's like I'm for me, this grumpy face here kind of indicates my whole the way the world works kind of thing with jobs and stuff just doesn't fit me. I'm way too contrarian. Like, I whether I am or not, I always feel like I'm surrounded by idiots. So it's like how I mean, I go to work and I'm like, how are these people managers? It's like they don't even know their job. And I'm just want to go into a place where I can kind of be my own boss. I still have to listen to what the fans want. I mean, you still have to, make money and do things like that. But it's like I'd rather put it all on my shoulders and be a writer and be a content creator and work towards that. Now, it doesn't mean I'm giving up my job. It just means the ultimate aim is to get rid of the job. So at some point I can retire and from my retail job and just do this stuff. I'd rather do that. So that's kind of where I'm at. So Bangs needs a hat. I don't know. He has ears. I mean, whenever you do a hat on a rabbit, you kind of have to get past the ears. So, yes, Slash lives. Yes, I need a thinking job. I need a job where I create and think, and I can't do the mindless drivel. Okay, so yeah, listen to the air conditioners. Okay, fair enough. They're better. I got one more message. I will put that up later, Merle. I'll load that for next time. Thank you very much, though. I'll have to put that on next time. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Earl. That was a good pick me up for me because I've been agonizing about this decision about what to do, and I know you have too. Like we're like both, I'm done. I'm just so done with the way the world works. I just don't fit in it, and I don't feel like I'm a part of it. And I want to go do me. So yeah, I mean, I'm tennis hat with a top, open top. Okay, I think you're right about that desk. I think Dave, you got a point there. So I we're working on it. I know I've come up with the basic outline, but we want to put some new Fang stories in it. But we also, I think for me, the best way for me to be inspired to write the stories of Fangs is to put him up against Yahweh God and later JC and the Spook, and have him the misadventures of Fangs is going to be a constant. Him messing with the Bible stories, so it'll be fun and it'll hopefully illustrate some things because I've got in order to kind of facilitate my own creativity on this issue of having an adult style, children's book, I did, Earl, finally pick up the book you recommended. So I just got it today. So I'll have some interesting bedtime reading later. So, but yeah, it's the idea is to, illustrate absurdity by being absurd. It's like, and, it's kind of like, Dave does that with, dare I speak heresy, Bigfoot and other things like that people believe in. So yeah, so it's one of those things. You've been making gifts. Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's what it is for a lot of us. Triple E, we don't fit. I don't fit the corporate mold of what they want. I think I could be beneficial to a lot of jobs. It's just you have to give me like the accommodations I need as an autistic person. That's my biggest piss off with RFK Jr. is like what we really need now for autism. We know what causes it. Okay. What we need is accommodations. Like autistic people don't get promoted. They often are viewed as, oh, they're a great employee, but they're not approachable. And it's like, and we need some accommodations regarding that. Like, that's not really our fault. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I'm part of we're all part of this community. We're all, we're having this fun time. And I prefer this. Okay. I prefer having fun online. I prefer going this direction. And it's taking the steps necessary and treating this more and more like a job, not in the sense of drudgery, but more of, okay, this is my vocation. This is my career. And I wanted to be a writer for like decades and just never had the motivation. And now it's like, it's time to write again. It's time to delve in, and write for publication and do the things I need to do. So yeah, we get fired more often too. I've experienced that a couple times. Like, I know for a fact if I'd stayed teaching, they would have fired me after the second year because I was so contrarian to the education specialist that we had. Like, I fought her all the time. Like, I don't agree with you. Well, I'm the education specialist, so do it my way. And it's like, no, bro, I'm not doing it your way. It's like, and that's kind of the problem. We don't get promoted and we get fired more often. And it's all because our nervous system is different. Okay. And we don't react the way people think we should. Like, I'm very open and relaxed online. I'm very open and relaxed with this community, my channel, the things that I do, because that's me putting myself out there and I have control over that. Most of you wouldn't recognize me in private because I'm very, very quiet. Like, I don't say a lot. It looks like I'm just being aloof and don't care. But that's not the case. My emotions are very much involved. It's just I don't know how to express them like everybody else does. Or better yet, I'm not equipped neurologically to express them as like everybody else is. So what do we do with those type of people that can't do that? And it's not that they couldn't be good managers or good whatever. It's just they never get a second look, okay, because of the way the world works. So I'm tired of that. But yeah, I probably would have gotten fired from my teaching job eventually. I've had certain groups of managers come after me because they don't like me. And I'm like, I haven't done anything to you to piss you off. It's like, I literally have been helpful to you and you're coming after me. It's like, it's because I don't like my attitude. And my attitude is basically peaceful and don't fuck with me. It's like, if you don't cause no shit, there won't be any shit. And somehow for some people, that's just wrong. So I'm looking forward to retirement. Might write a book myself. The Thoughts of Chairman. You've lost count. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. I mean, I got fired from 3 churches technically. In the end, it doesn't end well for me. I never like walk out gracefully with a goodbye Ed party. It's more of a, fuck this place, I'm done. And I want to do something where I don't say that. Okay. And the best way for me to do that is to follow what I want to do. So that may mean changes to the channel in the future. They're going to come slowly. I'm going to I'm desperately going to make this into something I do every day, whether I'm online or working on a video or doing something else. That's where I'm headed. So, and I'm definitely trying to get writing as part of doing it every day kind of thing, and for me, that means having multiple projects. So it's whatever I feel like working on that day, I actually get something done. If I have one thing that I'm always focused on, that's never worked for me. So, yeah, I did not. That was my problem with the Texas education system is they have these things called the TEKS, the educational standards, and you're constantly just figuring out how to teach them. What you teach in a class is very much out of your control. So, and yeah, I'm done. I got done with that pretty quick. And I'm like, yeah, that's not technically true. You're teaching these kids somewhat of a falsehood. Um, I remember when we talked about economics, I have a minor in economics, and I'm like, this is not what they teach in college. Yeah. This is actually the opposite of what they teach in college. So it's like, yeah. So, a friend that they thought I liked them at first because the interaction. Yeah. How do, yeah. I get it. Um, we don't interact well. Um, I know that like I had a woman come up to me and I think she was flirting with me, but I was like, at first I was like, okay, what you up to? And I'm not going to express myself to her the same way somebody that's neurotypical would. And I think she read it wrong and haven't talked to her since. So it's like, it's, it's really weird. Okay. It's really weird because you don't react the way people expect you to. And so they think you're antisocial. So I just find it weird. Need more education on autism because there's still a bunch of bullshit out there. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Fred. Um, I'm glad I'm appreciated. Well, I'm about to close it out, actually. I spent 2 hours talking about what is a religion and, well, about an hour and a half. And then the last half I've been going over and revealing stuff to the fans. So I'm coming to the end of it. One, I'm getting very hot wearing this hat. And two, I'm just kind of, I have my limits. So I'm kind of getting to that point. History achievements are in my own mind. Yes. Generally don't like Liam. Here's the thing, Earl. I have the same problem with men because they're always, men are always like, come at me, bro. Like they're trying to assert their male dominance. And I just don't react to that. And it pisses a lot of them off. Like, um, but it's like, I guess I've had the advantage because I know other autistic people who are like, can't stick up for themselves physically. They get pushed around and bullied. And I used to have that when I was a skinnier version of myself. Now, when I don't react to this puffing up the chest, trying to be the silverback gorilla shit, they back off because I'm fucking the silverback gorilla, whether they want me to be or not. I'm a big dude, and you try to push me around, I'll be like, yeah, what are you doing there? But I get the same thing from men. Like men do not like me. Okay, women, different story, but kind of it depends on how they interact with me. But if they get to know me, I usually have a very good time with the ladies. But can be good friends with them and stuff like that. But men don't always react well to me. I get that same thing where they're like, with girls, you got that pecking order, and with men, it's the silverback gorilla thumping their chest shit. And like, I don't have to thump my chest. A lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion. So, and that's just kind of my attitude. I kind of walk around like I'm the king, or I don't give a shit what who the king is, and they have a problem with that. So, yeah. So, yeah, you're surrounded by morons. Yeah, me too. I love the video. I'm gonna put that as part of my repertoire on streams, just in case I get a chance to use it. Yeah, I think you would have. Women are scary, and so are men. By the way, yes. You're just effeminate to like. Okay, well, there you go. But yeah, I've had that problem with men for years because especially once I started playing football in high school and started lifting weights. Suddenly, before that, people the guys would bully me around. Well, now you try to push me around, and I push back. And some of the guys that used to bully in middle school had to back down because it's like, no, I'm bigger than you, bro. So, and it's kind of that way. But men, I don't know. I get along with most of them, and I can joke with them, but it's usually the guys that look at me and say, "Yeah, he is the big gorilla in the room, so I'm going to pay that respect." It's usually good, but I don't really push that. I don't like say, back off me, bro. It's just like it's assumed. So, but yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of that way. So I don't know, but I have the same problem with men that you have with women. So it's like we're neurally divergent from our own biological sex enough that they don't get us. So we seem to be the outcasts. So I get it. But well, folks, I'm going to call it a night. One, the temperature really hasn't dropped yet, so I'm still roasting, but and I need to cool off. But I also want to thank everybody for coming by. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate the donation from Ronald to have 10 new members. Appreciate that very, very much. Um, Allows us to keep the emojis rolling. Thanks for Bren becoming a member and all the other donations. Thank you. Thank you so much. It really helps me with heading in the direction I want to do. So thanks, everybody. Yes, hail Fangs. Thanks, Nam Nam. May Fangs nibble on your heart and turn you into more and more like him, who doesn't give a shit most of the time. An atheist deity who doesn't believe in himself, who doesn't give a crap what you do as long as you don't harm others. So there you go. So thanks for all that. Appreciate all of you. May the blessings of Fangs go with you. Appreciate all of those. So men are scared of you too. Well, I'm scared of you, so there you go. So there you go. But yes, thanks everybody for coming by. And as always, live your best life, people. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you all next time.